Hi, and welcome back to another edition of TOCA Backstage. This is Chris Wolf, the Executive Director of TOCA. It's my complete and total honor to have artist David Benoit with us today. David actually will be opening our 25th season on September 21st at 8 o'clock at the Armstrong Theater. David, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
I appreciate that, Christian. Yes, absolutely.
So you have a very long and illustrious career. I think like 25 albums. You've been musical director for some really big names. In your humblest of opinions, what do you think is your career highlight to date?
Well, the first thing would be that it's actually 36 albums.
Oh, sorry. My Wikipedia was wrong. Sorry.
I had to count recently because that question came up from Shawnee Records. So, in fact, it's 36. But anyway, yeah, there have been a few career highlights. I mean, I think recently one of them was a few years back when I got to conduct the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony at Disney Hall with the Asian America Symphony Orchestra. That was an amazing event. Never forget it. We had a 400-piece choir of a lot of the Japanese American community.
Oh, wow.
It was really something. So I would say that was definitely a career highlight.
And you travel the world. Any favorite spots you like to perform at?
Well, there's been a few. I performed recently, a couple of years ago at the Algarve Festival in Portugal. And in fact, I wrote a piece about it with Marc Antoine. That was a fantastic, beautiful place, very inspiring. And so that comes to mind right away. And then recently I played for the first time in Milan, Italy. And that was also really, really a fun gig, very inspiring to be able to do.
And I have to ask, I mean, your music is so engaging. Where do you typically find your inspiration? I mean, granted, you live in maybe one of the beautifulest places in the world, which is Southern California in the South Bay, but where do you find your inspiration?
I mean, yeah, I think recently we were in Vernazza, Italy, and I have a new album coming out, by the way, August 23rd. So we're going to be sure to be debuting some of that new album on September 21st. It's a September 21st, right? Did I have the right? Yeah,
that's right.
And so we'll be reviewing the brand new album. Very excited about that. And I wrote a piece called Vernazza because I was so inspired by this beautiful spot in Italy. It's a little fishing village. And so that was a really great opportunity to be able to write that song right after I got back from Italy. And sometimes inspiration is just sitting in front of a piano and seeing what happens and to see what comes out, and it's kind of more of a discipline than anything. Just saying, okay, this morning got to write some music and get to
it. And I know following your career of late, you've also been doing the Charlie Brown Christmas shows. A lot of presenter friends of mine have had you at their venues. What drew you to that particular piece or that genre to do as a live performance?
Well, I think the idea came to me years ago after the passing of Charles Schulz. And they asked me to perform some of the Peanuts music at the funeral, which I did. And then I kind of got the idea that this music still resonates with people quite a bit. And so I started experimenting with playing some of it live. And then it kind of evolved into a Christmas concert because so much of that music was written for the Charlie Brown Christmas special. So that's kind of how it evolved. And then it just became something real special for us because people that grew up watching that show like yourself, I'm sure you and I are about the same vintage. So we all grew up watching it and that music. So it's a chance to relive it and play it because the music is so engaging and it was so much a part of it launched my career, the reason I got into jazz piano. So it's just kind of evolved into something we enjoy doing every Christmas.
Yeah, I got to tell you that one song, I don't know what it's called, but when they're at the dance and that I couldn't even begin to sing it, but that, as soon as it's iconic, because as soon as you hear it, you go, "Oh, that's Charlie Brown Christmas."
Yeah, that's right. I think it.
So I know also of late you've been sort of instrumental in the Asian American Youth Symphony. How did that come about?
That's a kind of a long story. To make a long story short, I I did a fundraiser for the Asian American Symphony. This is almost 22 years ago, and it went really, really well. And then the music director, who was a classicist, strictly Mozart and Beethoven, had a parting of the ways, and so they were looking for a new music director. So they contacted me, and I accepted. At the time, it was just a straight union professional orchestra, and I, in talking with them, felt like we should build up the youth element of it. So I actually formed the youth orchestra in 2002, the Asia America Youth Symphony, something I started. And then after Toyota pulled out and a lot of the big Japanese corporate sponsors just, kind of went away. So we just couldn't fund the full symphony anymore. So we decided to put all our energy into the youth orchestra. And 20 years later, we've had 18 solid seasons. And what we do now is we add a few professional musicians to our headliner concerts. So it's really been joyful.
And as I understand it, we will get part of that group at your performance on the 21st?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a few of our top kids on the 21st. Maybe somewhere between a 20 to 35 piece orchestra will be part of that evening.
That'll be an amazing evening. So when you perform, one thing I always ask artists is, people, I mean, obviously people come and they attend your shows, but what do you as the artist want them to leave with? What's your goal in performing that you want people to walk away with?
I just maybe feeling a little better than they did when they walked in. Maybe they're uplifted, or their spirits are feeling better. Or maybe I touched a nerve or something. But as long as they feel something that's positive, with all the the political discourse and everything going on, the crazy news, and that's one chance for them to get away from all that and to just have a really fun evening, and maybe meet some new people as well, and just really feeling maybe a little more elevated leaving the theater than when they came in.
And so going back to the youth symphony, do you ever get surprised by some of these kids? I mean, I've seen some of we have like South Bay's Got Talent, where we get to see, young kids perform. And to me, I'm just always blown away by some of these kids. Like one kid who won South Bay's Got Talent was an 8-year-old who did Flight of the Bumblebee on piano. And I was just like, how does that happen? Do you find that these kids are just like crazy talented?
Yeah, I mean, we get all kinds. It's quite the spectrum in the youth orchestra, and there are those just brilliantly talented kids that audition, and you just know right away, wow, this kid is exceptional. And I think we're starting to see more and more. I think as kids get more access to the internet and more information at a much younger age, we're seeing a lot more brilliance at a young age. I mean, there's all sorts of kids over the internet. There's a kid that's an 8-year-old bass player that's already playing professionally, and there's a kid named Taj Farhan. He's a guitar player. He's 8 or 9, and he's playing wild blues. And there's just they're everywhere now. They're young, and they're not even they haven't hit puberty, and they're playing professionally. And so it's a whole new game, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to see how much energy there is in music. So I'm always looking for those kids that are exceptional. But I also like the ones that maybe come to the orchestra that don't come in with a lot of fireworks or excitement or talent, but are willing to work hard and be nurtured, and so that their experience by the time they're finished is a good one for them, and they've learned something, and I've learned something, and so we look at all kinds of kids from all different levels of music talent. I mean, it's really interesting.
That's awesome. And do you hold annual auditions for the symphony?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have them every September.
So if somebody was interested in joining, they would just keep an eye out for auditions?
Yeah, they could go to our website. We usually put out a notice too, and then we do some recruitment around the school system, the local school systems. But it's I think the auditions are in early September. In fact, we'll probably be looking for some new kids to participate in the September 21st concert. You know, we'll see who comes through and what kids show some promise and some talent. They might even have an opportunity to play that concert. So kids, if you're listening, just go to the website aasymphony.org and find out the date. There's an application form on the site, so you can check it out.
That's great. Now, as a true professional, when you meet these kids, do you have like words of wisdom that you like to impart on them? One of the things that Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation does is we try to nurture upcoming talent and try and encourage these young creative kids. Any words of wisdom you like to give to upcoming kids?
Not specifically, but just generally I'm sure that what they've heard before, of course, practice makes perfect. But also looking for opportunities to play with other kids. Like I think it's always a good idea especially for the jazz kids, to find other players to play with locally and get in some kind of a band. And not just practice. Practice is part of the big picture, but it's good to be engaged in playing. Even if you play at a retirement home or whatever it is, get out there and play, meet people. Don't just sit home and practice. I mean, because that you want to have a goal, you want to have something to strive for. So, and honestly, when I was growing up, I was always playing in groups and busy, but probably never practiced as much as I should have. So,
kids, he didn't say that, really.
I didn't say it. Don't follow my advice. But.
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting though that you had mentioned the internet and kids go on the internet. I think back in the day, growing up, it's like if you wanted to discover new music or wanted to meet musicians, you would have to go to the record store. You have to buy the records or listen to them or learn from a friend, and then that became sort of the place to meet people. Nowadays, with the internet, it's almost harder for these kids to find musicians with like minds. Is that wrong? Or is that just me?
Well, I think there's some truth to that. Because they can feel pretty isolated sometimes if you're just in front of a computer. On the other hand, there are some kids that are so brilliant, they post something on the internet, like on YouTube, and all of a sudden they're getting offers for professional offers, which would have been impossible when I was growing up. And like you were saying earlier, that's how I did. I remember going to Wallach's Music City. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
On Hawthorne Boulevard and Artesia. And they had a little listening booth. And I would buy records and listen to them first and buy them and transcribe them. And then I had guys I met in high school. I remember one band, they were very good with Carl Grossman, and he has a music studio here in Hermosa Beach. We're still closer, and jamming with those guys and just meeting people and networking and playing with garage bands. And maybe that whole thing is different nowadays because we didn't have the internet, like you say. We didn't have a choice. The way we had to do it was just meet people in high school and find opportunities to connect. And I will say, with our orchestra, what I like is sometimes we'll take a break, and then I'll hear the kids get together and start jamming during the break. And my executive director was like, one day he was, they shouldn't be doing that. I said, no, they should. I love it when they do that, when they just kind of pick up instruments and they start playing on standards. I think that's another cool thing about our program. You know, we're not a real strict classical orchestra. We're more like more closer to a jazz situation. So we encourage kids to jam with each other, you know, get their phone number and have some extra curricular time to just play through tunes. And I think it's invaluable just to play through standards and learn how to play with other musicians and learn about time and timing and phrasing. That's just invaluable experience. You can't get it on the internet.
Well, and I mean, it's kind of good and bad, I guess, because whereas in the past you had to go to the record store and hang out to learn about new music, now they can just hop on the internet and just, I mean, it's crazy because kids nowadays know about the artists from the past, the Frank Sinatras, the B.B. Kings. I mean, all the old artists are readily available, whereas before you'd have to go either break into your brother's room to listen to his records or whatever. So I think it is good and bad, but I like what you're saying is encouraging kids to get out there and jam with other musicians is important.
It's really important.
Oh shoot, I had a question. So the youth symphony, do you really focus mostly on classical, or do you also, because I know you're a consummate jazz artist, but do they do jazz as well?
Yeah, they do. We try to cover the full spectrum, classical, and so that could be any, that could be a Beethoven symphony, could be Mozart. Probably we don't focus a lot on the more contemporary classical repertoire because it gets more and more different. You know, we never tackle Shostakovich, for example, or Rachmaninoff, but we have tackled the earlier classical repertoire, and then we kind of go from there to a lot of film music, Broadway show music. And then we have kind of a group within a group. We have a jazz ensemble with saxophones and trumpets and trombones. So that we've done even some of my arrangements, some big band arrangements, and some straight ahead jazz. One year we did a tribute to Buddy Rich. We did Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. And nice. I encourage the kids always to improvise. You know, improvise. We've had a few violin players, even a violist that came up and improvised. And so my mission has always been to get the classical kids to improvise, to get the jazz kids to learn about reading music. Because a lot of the jazz kids don't come from reading music. They come from just, playing by ear. So this orchestra is a training ground for them to learn how to read music, learn how to sight read classical, but also learn how to improvise.
That sounds great. I think that's what I'm really looking forward to about the show coming up in September, is that people are going to be not only, I guess, treated to a performance with, are you bringing the quartet or the trio in September?
I'll be bringing a young trio with, in September. They become, we just performed in Hermosa Beach, and they were former members of the youth orchestra, and they're now the young professional players. And they'll be joining me. I think we did the event. We did an event at James Armstrong back last spring, I think, and it was this young group, the same group.
Awesome. Well, but people are going to be treated to that, and then they'll also get sort of some of the American Youth Symphony. And I'm honestly sort of amazed at how much, because you are so busy traveling, creating. Not only your own stuff, but also with the Youth Symphony. I don't know how you find the time. Are you just like cloned or something?
No, I try to manage it. I do have a lot of help from Daryl Tanakawa and Joe Marino, who's actually going to be helping kind of. I'm actually, after September 21st, starting into next year, I'm taking a little break, and Joe will be taking over some of my duties, just for me to take a little pause and take a deep breath and, look for some fresh ideas. So Joe's going to be helping me a lot more next season with the daily rehearsals and all of that. Because it has been, it's trying to find the time to do it all and just do it all well. It's a bit of a challenge. But yeah, the good thing is I love doing it. So it's stuff that I love. I love being on the radio at KJazz 88.1. I love getting out and touring. And so all those elements are stuff that I enjoy. It's just trying to manage it all.
That's right. I almost forgot you have your own radio show. How is that like just a dream come true for you?
Yeah, I never would have expected it, but I always felt like I had a good voice, and DJ was sort of a kind of a little fun thing that I thought I would be good at, and so it just kind of fell into my lap. And 7 years later, I'm still the morning person at KJazz, and it's been a really fun experience, and they're so nice over there. It's been a really great group of people, and I just can't say enough good things about it.
That's wonderful. Well, David, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. It's been an honor, and we will look forward to your performance on Saturday, September 21st. It's our big 25th anniversary celebration, so I urge people to check it out. So again, thank you, David, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.